crying, feel like I'm back in Spanish class. But we're gonna do it.
Good.
Yes.
So you say that you do not speak language?
No.
No.
No one speaks the Kalapuya language. My daughter and her family are probably the only people speaking Kalapuya right now, and we don't know a whole lot yet. We're still learning. One of the problems is pronunciation. It's figuring out how, we see how the word is spelled, but how do you pronounce it? What is it that's the same?
The K and the C and the Q, it's all
K,
but
C, and Q.
every
are all
person that recorded it, this person said, you know, a K sound, and then the next person said Q. So it's kind of hard. We're trying to think of our own alphabet.
forcibly taken from the land. Immediately when the people got on the reservation, the idea of the government was to make Indians into white people by forbidding the language, the culture, the drumming, the dancing, the storytelling. And the government figured if you can get that out of the Indian, then the Indians won't be a problem. So yeah, it was absolutely forced assimilation.
Is there any resentment? Is there any held resentment to the people of now, knowing that we have no control over what our ancestors did? Is there still that harbored resentment?
Well, I don't, most of my people don't like to hold anyone accountable. I always say it's the system that allowed it to happen. The gears started in Washington, D.C. and just spread. And the people out here were the yes men for the government. And so they did what the government wanted them to do. There were a lot of friendships between the native people and the settlers, a lot. But unfortunately, Hollywood has glorified it, that, you know, it's instantly Indian against cowboy. And that's the picture that people get. But there was actually more cooperation between the tribes and the settlers than there was some kind of confrontation.
That's very true.
Yes?
Were there medicine men, and so that knowledge still available, herbal healing, that?
There were medicine people, not a lot of people know that anymore. Some has been written down by the early ethnographers around 1900 who took personal stories and reminiscences from the Kalapuya people. In my family, some has been passed down, and at some point, maybe we'll try to reclaim that too if I live long enough.
Yeah.
Way back there.
I was just gonna ask, what are ways that going forward, you said that it was a system and kind of towards that assimilation. What are the ways going forward that then instead of assimilating, celebrating, can bring back that identity that was kind of lost?
Well, I think reinforcing identity will definitely help in bringing back. We find that if our kids are interested in the culture, by getting them to go to a powwow or learning a few words in the language, they're really going to want to know. That's why the camp that we have is so important. We teach kids drumming and dancing and games and music and arts and a little bit of everything, and almost every kid picks up one thing that they really like. And the next year they come to camp, oh, can we do some more of the Indian Olympics, or can we do some more of, you know, whatever. This year we're going to teach lacrosse. Hand games.
Speaking of games, there was a stick game, and my grandparents were in the picture that's the University of Washington has from the Ceremony of Tears. Did you have games like that you played as children and that you still play?
Still play hand games, stick games.
The stick game? Okay.
Beaver teeth, dice games.
Do you teach some of
They
those?
don't know they're really gambling. They think they're just
Right, right. But,
guessing.
so you do teach those to the children when they
Yeah.
come to, okay.
Yeah, we teach all kinds of things at camp. So, yes.
That's a question for Shannon. Is there a written notation
if you can get a Eugene radio station here, what's that station that Nick does?
I don't know the call letter.
Here's the, and a lot of people think just because, you know, natives are old, I don't speak your language, I don't know my language. So they came up with, a lot of the songs I sing are called vocables, which is a sound or an expression in place of a word.
Right.
So when they finally said, okay, let's all get together, but we don't understand each other. So the way ah hey oh, hey ah hey, those type of things are just vocables. There are, the song I sang about the grass dance is a plain song, because it talks about how they would weave down the grass and how it was magic. And since we don't know tons about our language, we don't have very many Kalapuya songs, but a lot of it's just, you can get CDs and listen to the CDs over and over and over again, and you know, sometimes they might even put like the lyrics up, you know, and stuff like that, but most of it's just memory.
But a lot of the Kalapuya songs.
The one I started with, that's the only song that we have that we put together. But now that we're learning the other, because there was 11 bands of Kalapuya from Oregon City all the way down to Yoncalla, but not everyone spoke the same dialect. So the one that the song that I sang earlier was the southernmost dialect. Excuse me. The one that we're learning is just a little bit north of that. So we're just talking about hoping to get, you know, learn how to pronunciate the words correctly and then put them together. Do you say black cat or do you say cat black? You know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that we get it all right, pronunciation-wise, and we put it in the right order. But we love to make tons of Kalapuya songs.
Well, we have time for one more story.
Yes.
Yes, that's,
They want to hear snake.
we want to hear the snake.
Okay. My grandma had rules. She was over 100 years old. She was a traditional storyteller. We sat on the floor on our oputs, our inner end, with our hands clasped. You didn't get up when the story was being told. You didn't lay down when the story was told. You sat there and you looked at the storyteller. I know everybody knows one of these people that you talk to them, they're always looking at their watch or looking someplace else. Well, look right at the storyteller. So to make sure we would do that, Grandma used to tell this story. Now, can you make the sound of a snake? Oh, I don't know where you learned that. Must be a Hillsborough snake. Kalapuya snakes go shh. So try that. And to make sure you're watching me, when I put my hand up, I want you to go shh. Okay, let's practice. So let me tell you about the snake. Long time ago, as we all know, snakes had 2 arms and 2 legs. And they walked just like everybody else. Oh, this one snake, he was long, he was tall, he had his head almost all the way up in the clouds, and he had some scales on the back of his head, and the old women used to say, well, that's because he doesn't wash behind his ears good enough, just to teach the kids a lesson. Well, he was a good-looking snake, handsome, everybody liked him, but he had one really big problem. He loved to tell people what to do. So one day he was walking out through the woods, and there was a little boy. And the little boy was trying to make a bow so he could shoot an arrow, and he'd cut a limb from the yew tree and was trying to see if it would bend just nice and straight when it got dry. And Snake said, "Oh, little boy, that is not the right way to make a bow. I have a better way to do it, so do it my way." And the little boy did, and Snake said, because he knew he was right. That's what he always said when he thought he was right. So he walked a little further down, and down in a little valley there was a little girl, and she was digging camas. You know that bulb that grows into the ground? Ooh, it's so good to eat. She had her elk handle digging stick and was trying to dig that camas out of the ground. Snake said, "Oh, little girl, that is not the right way to dig camas. I have a better way to do it, so do it my way." And the little girl did, and Snake said, because he knew he was right. Well, he walked a little further on, and there was the village where the human beings lived. And he stood in front of that village and just shook his scaly head. Everybody was doing something wrong. No one's doing anything the right way. He said, "I will have to move into this village and teach people how to do things the right way." And he did. He moved right in, built himself a nice big lodge, and every day that snake went out and told people what to do. There was a woman scraping a deer skin or a man making an arrowhead, he'd say, "Stop, that's not the right way to do that. I have a better way, do it my way." And when they did, Snake would say, because he knew he was right. Even at night, when the people were in their lodges, he would go up and peek through the cracks of the wood, and the blankets were going up and down, and he'd say, "That's not the right way to do that." But they ignored him. Well, it didn't take long before everyone was tired of having Snake around. You don't want someone around who's always telling you what to do. So they got together and they came up with a plan. One night, while Snake was sleeping in his lodge, so sound nothing would wake him up, they sneaked in, and they'd made this long, strong rope of wild iris, quisquis we call it. While he was sleeping, they tied up one leg and made a loop, and tied up the other leg, and tied his arms together like this, and Snake woke up and he looked down and he said, "This is not the right way to tie someone up. Take off these ropes and do it my way." Well, people thought about that. They did. They took off the rope. Snake stood up straight and he said, "Now, if you want to tie someone up the right way, put both my legs together. Tie them so tight that I can't even move my toes. Put my arms down to the side of my body. Tie them so tight that I can't even wiggle a finger." And the people did. They took that quisquis rope, they tied that snake up all the way from his toes, clear up under his chin. And when they were all through, Snake looked himself up and down and he said, because he knew he was right. Well, the people laughed. They tied up the snake and the snake had helped. So they tipped him over and he laid out long on the ground and they said, "Snake, we're tired of having you around. All you do is tell us what to do. We have our own way of doing things. So we're going to carry you out of this village so far for so many days you'll never come back." And they tried to lift him up, but he was long and tall and heavy. And so finally they lined up behind that snake in a row and they started rolling. And they rolled that snake out of the village, all the way across that valley. Pilotpots, we call it. Roll the snake, pilotpots. They came to a hill and tried to roll him up the side of a hill, and he was so heavy that he flattened the hill right down. And they kept rolling and rolling and rolling that snake for days and days. Every time they'd come to a hill and tried to roll him up the side of a hill, he was so heavy, he flattened the hill right down. That's why the valley's so flat. And they kept rolling and rolling that snake toward the big river. It wasn't long before his legs stuck together. And they kept rolling and rolling and rolling that snake. Pretty soon they rolled him so hard that his arms rolled right inside of his body. And they kept rolling and rolling and rolling that snake, and he got longer and thinner and longer and thinner, and he wiggled out of the ropes. And that's why Snake looks like he does today, with no arms and no legs. But if you're out in the garden and you surprise a snake, he'll look at you and he'll stick out his tongue and he'll say, because he remembers the time that he was right, and that's his story's name.
From your family. Her husband. Maybe you should turn that up a little, add a little salt to that.
We just go,
Yeah, yeah, Dad. Also, as Native people, we are very honorable to our veterans, our people that work, firemen or police officers, things like that. So this song is actually an honor song for people of service.
well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here, and hopefully we shared some good things about our people. And if you have any questions, we'll be hanging out up here. I know some of you have to get back, probably. No?
No, we were running on Indian time. 3 hours before or 3 hours later.
Okay.
It's not that we're ever late or early, it's just that it's not the right time.
That was great.